and welcome into our weekly radio vision of America's 401k show. I'm Abigail Turner, here to talk about the most important points from Coach Pete D'Arruda's show last week. So in this first segment, Coach talks about mutual funds and how to make sure your money doesn't go away when you need it the most. Let's listen in to what Coach has to say about true diversification and lifetime income.
Yeah, and the 401ks almost discourage diversification because when you fill out the allocation, usually you can put a minimum of 25% in 4 different options. Mm-hmm. Some people put 100% in one option. Some people divide like they have 4 different options. They got 30 different options. They can pick 4 of them.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, you've seen that. Some of them will let you put up to as little as 10% maybe, so you can have 10 different of the mutual funds there. But when people look at the mutual funds, they look at what happened last year, or they look at the performance the last 10 years, and then they invest that way. Well, the last 10 years might have been great. Maybe that mutual fund had a lot of the technology companies that are fading now in there, so they look really good for the last 10 years. You put your money in, you put most of your money in that mutual fund. What happens going forward? Not a good thing sometimes, right? So we have to be very careful because we don't want our money to go away right when we need it the most.
No, we do not.
And so that happens a lot, though, Steve. And true diversification is across more than just stocks and bonds and mutual funds and ETFs. True diversification for your money has some income built in. And keep in mind, you don't have a true retirement plan, and that's what the 401k is supposed to be, by the way. You don't have a true retirement plan unless you have a lifetime income component built into that. How many, Chris, I don't know if you've seen a couple 401ks. I know you have too, Steve.
Sure.
Have you ever seen one that had an income plan in there which said based on what if you put in a certain amount of money today, here's what kind of income you'll have in the future?
That's always been missing.
Coach Pete always finds really clear ways to explain technical language that some of us just don't understand. In this next segment, he covers part of the Senate's new tax bill called FIFO and how it could affect managing your portfolio.
I hear Disney, and my wife and daughter love Disney, and I'm pretty sure their stock price is up, and probably because my wife and daughter like to go to Disney.
Sure, of course. Yes.
But this segment has nothing to do with Disney, unfortunately, folks. But
I love the song.
But when I heard the government term, which it's been used for other things in the past too, it rhymed too much with hi-ho not to take advantage of it.
so what is that? Talk to me about it.
The government has something they call FIFO.
Oh, okay.
F-I-F-O. And it's sort of like hi-ho right there.
Yeah.
And it's in the Senate tax bill that could make stocks a lot more expensive to sell, and it's called FIFO, first in, first out. So here's and it's very technical. This came across the newswire just the other day, and I said, well, gosh, why are they doing this? Why are they messing with this? It's not going to, and of course, then they get the government accountants together, and they say, oh, this could make us a lot more tax revenue in the future. And they said this provision could create an additional $2.7 billion in taxes over the next 10 years, according to a report by the Joint Committee on Taxation. The FIFO requirement, luckily, is not in the House bill. It's in the Senate tax bill, though, too.
So
but, when they get
what
together, Steve, and they say, well, this could raise another $2.7 billion in taxes for the government, where did that money come from?
Well, me, you.
Who is the government?
Yeah,
we
are.
So, in other words, they can steal another $2.7 billion from your stock investments. Now, here's what it means. Let's say that you like McDonald's stock. All right? Let's say that 30 years ago, you bought 500 shares of McDonald's stock.
All right.
It's up big since then, 30 years. And then let's say just 2 years ago, you bought another 500 shares of McDonald's stock. And it's up a little bit since then. So, and both of them are long-term holds because you held them more than a year. So long-term taxation, long-term capital gains, we call it. So what the government says now is back in the day, if you bought some stock, let's say in 2015 of McDonald's, and you had other stock that you had since 1990, when it came time to sell 500 shares, so maybe keep in mind you have 1,000. You bought 500 back in the 90s and 500 other shares here just a couple years ago. When it came time to sell your stock, let's say you wanted to sell 500 shares. It would have been up to you to say which 500 shares you were selling. Are you selling the ones from back in 1990, which have a huge gain, which is huge taxation, or are you going to sell the ones from 2015 that you have a little bit of a gain? Both of them, again, you held for over a year, so you don't have to worry about short-term capital gains taxes, which are more than long-term. But the government now says you have no choice anymore. If you sold 500 shares of McDonald's, and again, you had 1,000 shares, they would assume that the 500 you sold came from 1990 purchase, not the 2015 purchase. So they are taking the decision-making process away from you. They snuck this into the tax bill, which, again, did I mention, sounds like hi-ho, hi-ho.
That's it for this week's Weekly Radio Vision. Visit us at americas401kshow.com for more content, including all our latest podcasts and your copy of the 401k Survival Guide. And as always, keep an eye out for next week's Weekly Radio Vision.